I will never forget that though, because you came up to me and you're like, hi, like, do you want to be in our small group? And I remember thinking, you're like, what?
Let's preface that because I was not a random stalker that just like ran up to you. It was
But
like,
a little random.
You're pretty.
Yeah.
You should be in my small group. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your health journey? You can start wherever you want.
And I can remember thinking, I'm dying. I can remember thinking like, and it wasn't just little symptoms. They were a big deal to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. After my third, I had to have a full-time nanny who took care of my kids because I couldn't get out of bed. I'd go to the hospital and I'd be like, something is wrong with me. And literally the doctors would be like, we don't see anything.
I will go there because I will go there. The medical system, if you do not fit into a box, they just don't know what to do with you. But even if you do fit into a box and you feel like crap, it can be a very hopeless place to be. So hopeless, so sick, no answers, or answers that no one had answers for.
Nothing can happen to me because I have these 5 beings that I'm responsible for. And I think I held so tightly to that. As I'm sick, I can't care for them. And I remember the Lord speaking to me and he said, you have to release your children to me. Even if, Lord, even if you take me, like you're still good and you're going to provide for them.
Hey, welcome to Broken to Veiled. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I am Lauryn DeLoach, your host, and I get to be here with one of my very best friends, Charity Keeven, the best friend, the only one that exists, Charity Keeven. And she is going to be joining us today. We're going to be talking about something that some of you may know a little bit about my journey, but you know, I had a whole health journey with Lyme disease and struggling with some physical health for probably 12 years or so. And Charity and I met and she kind of struggled with the same thing. And so we just want to talk about it today. We want to talk about the real life feelings of it, how like what you go through emotionally. We want to talk about how God is there even when it doesn't feel like it. And so I'm going to get to Charity. We're going to talk about maybe first how we met.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and Laura and I met, gosh, I guess it was in 2016. I think so. 15. Because Levi was like 6 months old.
Yeah.
When we came. We met at, we were going to a church together, and her husband Aaron was a pastor there, and randomly he was going to start, I guess it was like a small group. Yeah. And Lauryn, it was supposed to be random, but it was kind of handpicked as well.
But we picked the people that we wanted in our small.
Yeah, and so I will never forget that though, because you came up to me and you're like, hi, like, do you want to be in our small group? And I remember thinking, you're like, what?
Let's preface that because I was not a random stalker that just like ran up to you and was
But
like,
a little random.
you're pretty.
Yeah.
You should be in my small group.
Hi.
Because my husband, Aaron, his childhood best friend is cousins with your husband.
Yes.
So we had a connection already that we had met.
Yes.
And
It wasn't really random.
it wasn't super random. So don't let her like, I wasn't this like rando going around the church just handpicking who I wanted to be in our group. But sort of.
Anyway, so she invited us and we said yes. And so after that, it was like the first moment, honestly, that we met Lauryn. We kind of became, well, actually, that's not true. We should probably tell that part. It wasn't the first moment, but
I tried.
Lauryn tried to be my friend.
I did send her a Facebook message after we had like maybe been in small group a little bit.
A couple weeks.
Yeah. And I sent her a Facebook message. I was like, hey, would love to get together outside of small group. Would love to grab coffee, you know, and crickets. Yeah. Nothing, never heard anything back. I was like, okay, cool. She doesn't want to be my friend. That's okay.
Actually not what happened. It was Messenger and I didn't know how to open Messenger. And so I never got the message. And so Lauryn thinks that I don't want to be friends with her. Not true. And
That's
so
how we did.
We did, but that was just organically. I think that as time went on and the more we shared and the more time we spent together, you felt comfortable sharing. You ignored me.
Yeah. At one point I was like, hey, you didn't want to be my friend.
Yes. And now we are best friends.
Yeah.
So it's so great. So
yeah,
that's how we met.
Cool. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your health journey? You can start wherever you want. And some of the struggles, or you can just share some of the individual stories and some of the lessons you've learned. I mean, obviously the podcast is called Broken to Build. Like we've all got the broken pieces and we know that they get put back together to build something incredible. But in those times that it's hard to see the pieces coming together.
Mm-hmm.
It's encouraging to know that other people have been there. So
Yeah.
you can share whatever you want with your health story and your health journey.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'd start with saying that I'm a mom of 5 kids. So I have 4 boys and 1 little girl. And after my first pregnancy, I started to not feel well. And then I got pregnant again, and then I got better. And then I had that baby and felt sick again, and then got pregnant again. And so it was like boom, boom, boom. And I noticed after my 3rd son, so I have 3 boys in a row, that I started to feel really sick. And it was like really random, weird symptoms, whether it be like pain or it'd be twitching or numbness or tingling, vertigo, like crazy vertigo, things like that. And those type of symptoms because you've had all those.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember thinking, I'm dying. I can remember thinking like, and it wasn't just little symptoms. They were a big deal to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. Like after my 3rd, I had to have a full-time nanny who took care of my kids because I couldn't get out of bed. And so I'd go to the hospital and I'd be like, something is wrong with me. And literally the doctors would be like, we don't see anything. I don't know what's wrong. I think you just need an Ativan or, a muscle relaxer.
It's anxiety.
It's anxiety. Yeah. It's in your head. And I would know something is really wrong. And so we'd go back and we'd go through all the things and I'd go, maybe I have like a pinched nerve. Maybe I have all the things. I can't even tell you how many things that they ran to see what I had until finally, I think it was actually you maybe when I met you. That makes sense. When you were like, I think you have Lyme disease. Yeah. So we did go down that route and go to an infectious disease doctor. And he was like, oh, it could be, it's not fully.
He didn't want to test you for it. I remember.
He did test me though. And he wouldn't say, he's like, if you back me into a corner, I might say you have Lyme disease, but I'm not going to say you have Lyme disease, like, because you only have a couple of the bands. You know how that works.
Right.
But anyways, I felt so discouraged. I felt like, okay, something is wrong with me, but people think it's in my head.
You keep getting closed door after closed door. Like you're seeking answers and you're not
exactly
getting them. So where did that leave you emotionally?
It was hard. I guess in my mind, I knew something was wrong. And so like, I didn't give up. That's actually the truth of it. I was like, something is wrong. I'm not crazy. And so I ended up going to the Keeven clinic later, I guess, in our journey. I forget that you were in Ohio at that point. So when you lived there, I didn't actually know what was wrong with me. I just had gone to the emergency room in different places multiple times.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until you actually left St. Louis when I came to the Keeven clinic. And that's when they came back with like a whole gamut of things that were actually wrong. And one being Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a ton of other things too. But I think, and it sounds
what were some of those other?
So it's like
you might share.
No, not at all. Mold toxicity. I had like candida overgrowth, Lyme disease. There was like some inflammation markers that were really off. I had a ton of allergies and things that I didn't know that I was allergic to that I was eating all the time. And so it was like this like huge amount of things that added up to like everything. I feel like crap. Yeah. So it was like, this makes sense. And even my doctor, I guess I didn't need validation, but I did need validation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but he said, you have to feel terrible. It's in your brain. He made me feel like I'm not crazy. They just didn't test for these things.
Right.
And there's a whole story behind why they don't test for those things, but
I will go there because I will go there. The medical system, if you do not fit into a box, they just don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
Like they don't know how to approach it. I do think that some places are getting better with that and thinking more outside of the box. But if you don't fit into a box, because I was the same place as you, but you didn't know me at the beginning of my journey. But I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I feel like crap. And I addressed it a little bit when Aaron and I shared our story in that, because Aaron's personality is very like, well, just suck it up. We got 3 kids. You got stuff to do. Like, I'm like, you don't understand. It's not just like, oh, I have a little headache. Like, I feel like I'm going to die I don't understand. And so, yes, I think when you don't fit into a box, it can be very, very challenging to find answers.
And lonely too.
And lonely. So lonely. And I was going to say, but even if you do fit into a box and you feel like crap, it can be a very hopeless place to be.
It is. Yeah.
So
it can be.
Yeah, can be. Well, I don't know anyone that hasn't, years ago, I had a friend who had a family member that struggled with kind of like what we're saying. I don't know if they ever got diagnosed with anything, but it was like, I feel like crap all the time. And this person, ended up taking their own life because they felt it was like so hopeless, so sick, no answers, you know, or answers that no one had answers for.
Yeah.
You know, so it can be a very debilitating space.
Yeah.
So you finally get your validation of like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. And they put me on a whole regimen of antibiotics, natural things, herbs, oils, you name it. I was taking tons of supplements. Like I would have this entire basket that I'd like, you have a basket
Did
too.
you actually take them?
Yes, I did take them. I was very faithful and I went on the, stop it. I went on the diet. I did everything. I actually was very disciplined, which is sometimes not like me. Sometimes. But I did. I really did. I did focus at that time, and I was like, I'm gonna heal. I want to heal. So this is what I have to do. So I did it. Yeah. And so I guess in my mind, this was where the Lord was going to heal me. So he took me to Cleveland Clinic. He brought me all the way from St. Louis to Ohio, gave me the diagnosis. And so clearly this was my healing. And so that meant like one and done. I guess in my mind, like healing is like one and done. And so, anyways, I go through all that and I do feel better. I feel better than I did. Can't say I felt like 100% ever. But what I realized, and that was, let's see here, Eva is 10, so that was like 10 years ago, about like when I first started the heart agenda, the really sick to like where I am now. And truly, I have not had total healing. And I still struggle. And there's still moments where I'll get this blood work back that makes no sense. It's different. It's autoimmune. It's this. Whether it's still the Lyme disease and it never was totally taken away, or it's some new disease that I have, I feel like it's been a constant battle. And so bring me to today. That's like where I'm at. I'm not. I mean, I might look like I'm fine, you know, but I'm actually not. I have really hard days. I have really things that I really struggle through.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest part. And we all do it, right? As a society, we look at people and we're like, oh, they're fine. We have no idea what they struggle with. And especially with something that feels invisible to the naked eye, people would always think that about me. Oh, you're fine. Although you could tell a long time ago, you'd be like, you don't feel good. And I'd be like, shut up. Shut up. We're not talking about that. And so yeah, like having that of like everything looks great on the outside, but still feeling like this is a day-to-day thing that I have to lay before the Lord and walk through. So can you share some of the ways to be in the midst of the battle? Because I think a lot of us, and I'll speak for myself, a lot of us, when we go through something, a lot of times the wisdom doesn't come until much later, until we're fully healed, whatever that means, physical, emotional, like spiritual, like the wisdom comes later, because a lot of times we can get bitter in the midst of it and be like, this sucks. And you have so much wisdom to offer in the middle of it. Like you're still not fully on the other side, which I believe that you will be. Sure. But like right now, talk about that and talk about the where you are when it's like, this is not my ideal situation, but God still has something in it for me. Talk about like some of that.
I guess the way I would start is like breaking down from the very beginning, like where I was when I first got sick to like where I am now. So I could give you examples of moments where the Lord intervened and where I felt like I heard from him so clearly and how it like changed. So like one of the times I hadn't again received a diagnosis, like Levi was still a baby and I was going through acupuncture. It's like one moment, and God had to take me to a place because we all like to be in control, and I really feel like my children, since I have 5 kids, and it's like that's everything to me. That's what I do. I invest all my time, all my energy into these children.
My food. Every children steal my food.
They do. They steal
every apple. My apple. I can't even have an apple
without them taking it. So yes, it really is. And so it was this thing that I held so deeply to. I'm like, nothing can happen to me because I have these 5 beings that I'm responsible for. And I think I held so tightly to that. And so as I'm sick, I can't care for them. So the Lord, not that he took that away from me, but it was just, you know, it got taken away from me. And so I guess my identity in that was kind of hard because I'm like, I can't even do what I'm called to do with them. And so I remember being in this acupuncture room and there was like a bird feeder outside and she puts all these needles in me. This is the first time I've had acupuncture. It was super bizarre. And they're just like I'm like sitting there with needles all over me. And I remember I put on some worship music and I was in there for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And I remember the Lord speaking to me and he said, you have to release your children to me. And it's like I was refusing to do that until that moment where I was like, even if, Lord, even if you take me, like you're still good and you're going to provide for them. So, and it was so abundantly clear where I almost feel like I just like raised my hands and I was like, I surrender them. And so it was like a letting go of something, a tearing apart of something that I thought I had control over, and I didn't. And so
it's almost like a realization.
It was
like it was never mine to begin with.
And it never was. I just thought it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we all do.
He entrusted to me for this time and however long, whether it would have been for that short period of time, and he took me, then that was it. Right. And so to be faithful in that time and whatever he has for me. And so that was hard, but it was so freeing because it became like, I'm not scared to die. I know where I'm going. I know what the Lord has for me in heaven, and I know he has full healing for me in heaven. And so it wasn't about that ever. It was about what's going to happen to my children, my husband.
Yeah.
If I'm taken.
He's going to find someone else. Probably blah. Sorry, Dad. There.
So anyways, that part was the first like teaching moment, right? Because like in the midst of, I guess another thing I've learned in the midst of our suffering, like it is not void of moments of goodness and moments of like learning and gratitude. And so I guess that's like the biggest thing in my health journey is despite the suffering, there's so much healing that takes place, but it actually wasn't necessarily at a physical level. And I think the only way for me to learn it is through that. For me personally, not everyone.
Yeah.
But I think my heart and my eyes and my ears are most open when I'm at my worst. And maybe that's everybody. I know it's me for sure. So I don't know if you feel like that.
I wouldn't say it's everyone because I think it's a very Christianese example, but they say, like water makes eggs hard and potatoes soft. It's the same boiling water. Like you put in the eggs, it hard boils the eggs. You put in the potatoes, they get soft.
Gosh, that's good.
So at the end of the day, something that might make you soft might make someone else hard.
Totally.
So
it's really good.
I think
person by person.
It's person by person. But I also love the point that you made about it being about the heart. Because I remember the Lord told me at one point, and I wasn't asking him anything. I was getting ready. I was in my closet. And he spoke to me. I wasn't praying. I wasn't doing anything. I was just getting ready for the day. And he said to me, this journey's never been about healing your body. It's been about healing your heart. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? Like, and so for me, now that I'm farther on that journey, I see for me how much heart change has made, but the heart change and the mind change has actually impacted my physical journey, not the other way around. Like, yes, our physical impacts our emotional, but the true deep subconscious is what's impacting the way that I like everything around me, everything that I'm going through. And so I love that you brought that up because like for me, I'm like, I am a completely different person than I was before all of that. And there might have been a different way to get me on that journey.
Yeah.
But God knows the softest way to get to each of us. And while it doesn't feel soft and it doesn't feel like God, wasn't there a better way to do this? Like there could have been any other way, but it's like God chooses the most gentle way to reach us. Even if it doesn't feel gentle and good, he is still good. And so, so I love that you brought that up. And I think that that's very, so just such a good reminder for all of us. What are some of the other ways that God, like one of them was giving him back control or releasing the idea that we had any control to begin with over children and all of that stuff. What's something else that you feel like the Lord's taught you?
Yeah. So he's taught me that it's not just because you're in a hard place doesn't mean that you can't serve and give and love and help others in the midst of that. And so, so many times, like I feel like the Lord has allowed me to serve and to meet someone like in their time of need to get me out of my head or to get me out of my suffering. It's to like look for ways that I can like pray for others. And so that is something that like just because we're in this space doesn't mean we can't also be used by God. Recently, actually not that I'm going out of order of like my story,
That's
but
okay.
just to jump around, like this was a year ago before I went to Florida, St. Augustine, when you met me up there. I was in the hospital for a week, and I went in. I went into deception. I was sick.
Praying for you because I was on a trip and you had called me, and I felt like I don't often feel like this, but that I remember feeling like you need to pray. Like this is a fight for her life.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I'm praying. Like I just remember because I was on a work trip, but I just all day praying. Like,
and I believe it because of the way the Lord, like where we went in to where we ended, you know, and I did. I really felt like that night when I was taking my ambulance, you know, it was, not to be graphic, but like, you know, throwing up profusely, passed out, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like my blood pressure tanked. And so then it's like, I wake up and then they take me by ambulance, right?
Yeah.
And I get all this pain medicine. There's so much fear and so much things like in my body, but I know something is wrong. So I'm willing to go by ambulance. And anyways, they tell me you might need surgery. Intussusception is like what babies have, which is not normal for adults, but somehow my stomach had turned inside out, or I don't exactly know the technical term, but either way.
It's a medical term.
It was a medical term.
Turned inside,
whatever.
Like babies have it.
Babies have it. So, and then there was a whole slew of other things like weakness and some numbers that were off. And anyways, I remember being in there and I felt complete peace. Like every day, like, oh, you're staying another day. Oh, we have more tests. Oh, you have to have a spinal tap. Oh, you have to. It was like never ending.
Yeah.
Right. But I remember the Lord saying, I'm keeping you here because I have people who need to hear from me. And so okay, you know, and it was just like, and every day, whoever was in my room was going to hear about Jesus, and whoever's was going to hear, and whether I'm reading the Bible or listening to worship music. And I had a whole slew of different faiths that had come in, and I mean, I could go on for a really long time about the stories and the people that I met. And I grew, I was challenged, and, you know, and I'd ask them like, do you know Jesus? Like, and it was just like, because the Lord asked me to say that.
Yeah.
It's not that I would have naturally done that.
Yeah.
But he kept me there. And I know he did. And I know, and I have in my journal, like, after that I journaled for a while and put names down. I don't remember their names now, but, I would pray for them because I know for that moment that God gave me and he held me in the hospital for a purpose. Right. And so I couldn't do anything else, but I could speak.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, there's that. Right. And so we're never useless. Like God can always use us if we allow him to and if we hear from him. But you have to hear from him and be willing, you know, to obey whatever it is. And it could be the simplest thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that. And I want you to speak more to that because I think there were times that when I was at my worst, I was like, God, what is the purpose of my life? Like what? I'm not doing anything. I'm laying here on a couch. In order to go to the bathroom, I have to hold on to things to balance my way to get to the bathroom. Like, what is the purpose of my life? And now part of that, I'm sure, was the enemy, because that's a really good way for the enemy to creep in and say, and I remember being at my worst, and I called my doctor. I had just had my third, and I called her and I said, you need to call in a prescription. Like I need an anxiety, depression, something. And she goes, well, you know, I just want to make sure. I have to ask you this. Like, are you like, she didn't know how to ask me, are you suicidal?
Yeah. Right.
And so she was kind of stumbling around with her words. I was like, before I know what you're going to say. And I said, am I going to kill myself? No. I said, but is it so bad that I think I should die every second of every day? Yes. Call me in the script.
Yeah.
Like, and so when you're at that point and you're like, what is the purpose of my life? Like, I am so desperate that I am praying every minute because I can't even look farther than a minute ahead. Like I have to be like, God, get me through the next minute. It was 3:02. Get me through this minute. God, I just get me through this minute. At 3:03, say, God, thank you for getting me through the last minute. I need you to get me through the next minute. I was like depending on him moment after moment. And it was like, what am I doing for the kingdom? I'm just laying here. I've got 3 little kids that I can't take care of. Like how? So I love that you spoke about that. And I love that you hit on that where it was like, there's always purpose, but can you talk more about that?
Oh yeah. And even if it's for the kingdom, it might not be for today, right? So you might not have had someone walk in, or maybe you did. Maybe it was Phoenix or one of your boys and just cuddled and it's like, and you tell them in that moment, like, Jesus is here.
Right.
Like, to me, there's purpose in that, right? Your kids see you suffering. They're watching you suffering. Do you suffer well? Do you have faith? Do you suffer without hope, or do you suffer with hope?
Yeah.
So to me, there's that moment, right?
Yeah.
There's that, but then there's also what happened later. So like, fast forward however many years, you meet me and I'm suffering and you sat there. So to me, the purpose doesn't always come in that moment. It comes later with compassion, with being able to meet people and say, okay, I know where you're at and it's going to be okay. And to me, like, what purpose in that to have a friend who's walked the exact same journey, different, but very similar, and been able to be like, you're going to be okay. And then encourage in the word and through prayer and that bond. Yeah. And I've seen it so many times where you've encouraged other people. I can remember specifically the one night where I ended up going to the hospital the next day and I couldn't move my neck. So they thought I had meningitis. So they did a spinal tap, and I don't know what was going on at the time, but they thought I had that. And you showed up and you're just going to be fine with like all this food. And it was like, I think it was like left over from the church or whatever. But do you remember this?
No.
You really don't. And you just like came and you like had all this food for my family. And you brought it over like, I'm sorry it's not this, but this is what I have. But I remember that was one of the first times, because I like to care for people. And
you like to buy food for people.
I like to buy all things.
A lot of food. Yeah, that's true.
Buying things, especially food, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it's not just food. It's
also food. All the things. I like.
All the things, yes. But I wasn't used to receiving. And so it was in one way that purpose for you was you already knew what it was like, what you needed in that moment. All you brought was food. Just like the physical needs were met. Like my family, I didn't need it, but my family did.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can remember that, but because you knew, right? Because you've experienced it, you knew how to care. And so I think sometimes the purpose comes later.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense at the time, but in time,
the
Lord can reveal that at times.
Yeah.
And so, there's that. And then also like to strengthen our faith. I think like what the purpose is, like being on your face and not having like anywhere to go and except for Jesus is such a gift. Because that's life. That's actually real life.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be health crisis.
Everything.
Yeah.
It is everything. And Jesus is what we have. He's our lifeline. And so some people don't get to experience the lifeline in such a vivid way. But I did. I'd be on my face on the floor. And another time, like I can remember, I think it's my parents praying over me that particular time. But I literally felt like in Psalm 91, where his wings, like, and they will protect you. And I felt this like covering over my body, and my heart at the time, I felt like it was going to explode. It was like, who knows, like 200.
Yeah.
And it was like going so fast. And I was like, I think I'm going to have a heart attack. It's so fast. And so I just had called my mom, and my mom is praying. And I remember I was laying on my kitchen floor, and just this overwhelming sense and this picture and vision that he gave me of him covering him under his wing. And it was so sweet, because to see the Father's heart and how much he loves me, and I think most people don't get that.
Yeah.
When you suffer, if you suffer and look to the Lord, right? So it's like different. Like you can suffer and be sick and be complaining and be angry and blaming and why me, right?
Yeah.
When that happens, because oh my gosh, who wants to suffer? So that day happened. I'm not saying that's like wrong, but like if you allow the Lord to care for you in your suffering, I really feel like the most, tender. You get to see the tender heart of the Father.
Yeah. I love what you just said about that and about experiencing God in a way that face down, that we didn't know we needed him. And it reminds me of the time, there was one time that I was sharing with you, a lot of our journey, but like the Lord, I have so many story after story about how the Lord has come through for us financially. Like when we made, like when we were family of 5 living on this much, and I was going through Lyme disease, and we were spending this much, but we made this much, and God just constantly came through over and over again. And I remember you telling me one time, you were talking about your husband, but he had mentioned, the stories that Lauryn and Aaron have about the way that God has come through in their finances, and the trust that they have in that. He said, I never needed to know God that way.
Yep.
Like I don't have those stories.
Yep.
And it's like, man, and then part of me, like my human part of me is like, I'll switch you places. I don't want to, I would rather not have to know
God that way.
Yeah. But I do have so much of a deeper trust because I just seen God in that way for that specific thing.
Yep.
Like, I've seen God in that way. So when the bills all pile up and it's like, I don't know how this is happening,
He's going to do it.
I'm like, and there's sometimes it's not always like, oh, I just trust because God's always like, I have those moments of like, okay, God, like this is really getting a lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my fear is less and my faith is more because I'm like, I've seen you do it time and time again. I know you're going to come through because you always do. And so in that, whether it's physical, whether it's financial, whether it's, any of those things, it's like God is going to come through. Like when he's brought you to that place, even if it doesn't feel good, and you get to know him intimately in that space of like, I've seen you do this before. I've been there. I've felt you cover me.
Yes.
I've seen you come through financially. I felt you speak to me. I felt like, it's like, okay, I wouldn't trade it. When you get out of it, it's like, oh, now I know God in such an intimate way that I wouldn't trade that experience for not knowing him.
I wouldn't trade it. In fact, I feel overwhelmed with gratitude about it. And so I'd say I'd do it all over again just to feel that close. And that closeness comes from, honestly, that's like the picture, right, of the gospel. We're at our worst. We recognize our need for a savior. He's not only my savior, he's my healer. And I know that. And while I don't have like complete healing right now, I do believe, like you said too, that we will have healing, and I will have healing, whether it's this side of heaven or I'm going to believe that it is this side of heaven. I think that's another thing I'd actually want to talk about, because prayer. So we pray a lot. I call you all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, can you pray for me? And I do believe when we pray for healing. So it's like, Lord, just heal her, just take this away. Like stop her heart from beating fast, or all the things that we pray for. And I do believe that he is healing in it. And I will continue to hope and believe for healing. But it's actually not yet, right? In the moment, it might be like, take that away. But I haven't experienced total healing where I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is just gone and I feel great again. But what I have experienced,
like instantaneous
healing. Yes. No, I have sometimes, like when I'm like, I remember one time calling you and asking you to pray, and you're like, actually, that seems like spiritual warfare. Like, let me pray against that. And it did. It like ceased in the name of Jesus, right? And so I have experienced that in the moment, but like it's never going to come back again. And I guess we just live in a broken, fallen world. So maybe healing's not necessarily, full healing is not my story, because you continue to feel sick and get sick. But I guess I lost my train of thought. Where was I on that?
And you were talking about instantaneous healing versus a journey.
Yeah, a journey of healing.
Yeah.
But what I have experienced and continue to experience is God as my healer, like a time and time again.
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. And I do think that's a great point even to bring up, is that sometimes we don't like that instantaneous healing. I know people that have experienced that, and it's like, yep, it's gone, never comes back. And I do believe God works that way. And in other times, I do believe it's a journey. And so, like for me, I fully believe, for both of us and for me, like healing is mine this side of heaven. And that is it's been prophesied over my life several times. And it has, like I am walking in that journey. And so in health, there are still days that I'm like, oh, okay. But it doesn't mean my mind doesn't go quite like it used to anymore. And it's like, oh, I'm bringing it back. Like, you know what? I might not feel like 100%, but I know that healing is a journey that I'm on, and my body is continuously working to heal me, and God is continuously working to heal me. And I'm going to walk in that today. I'm going to choose that today. And so, but there are people out there, like, what do you do when you don't get the instantaneous healing? And what do you do? Like, does that rock your face? Does it, So I think that that's a really, really good point to bring up, especially because we live, in a broken world, yes, but also in the land of America where everyone is sick, and like our food is crap, and our medicine and all, like everything. It's just like we don't walk anywhere. We sit, all the things. So there's so many things that go into that. And then we need to detox, and we don't. And our bodies just like compensate for so long. And so anyway, I just think anyone on any health journey can kind of feel that point of like, man, you didn't instantaneously heal the cancer. They might have that story. Someone else might have that story, but why don't I have that story? Yeah. And so there's a level of trust that you have to like, okay, God, I trust you on this journey. And I know that you are the healer, whether I see it instantaneously, whether it's a journey, like I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing things to add?
Closing. I have another story.
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah. Tell me another story.
So I'm sure you remember this because we talked about this, but when I was, again, looking for some kind of doctor to help, I found like a naturopath. And this particular one did a lot of like the body testing. We both went to places like that, and cupping and all the things. And I will say,
the witch that you saw?
Yes, this is the story.
Oh,
and so yeah, so
okay.
I guess my point, I would want people to know, like, also like the Lord is the healer, but also be careful who you go see and who you allow to work on your body, because we are physical beings, but we're spiritual beings too. And so our spirit is affected by who cares for us and what people speak over us or whatever it may be. And anyway, this particular time, I go in, and I had seen her many times before, and I always felt the need to pray when I was like on the table afterwards, but I actually never felt the need to share the gospel or like that push, like, hey, share Jesus, you know? And I knew that she had some sort of faith or some sort of, I don't know, religion, belief, whatever system. And a couple of times I was clued in that it wasn't the same religion, but this particular time, I remember her asking me, you know, do you have a headache? And I was like, no, I don't have a headache. And it was a really weird interaction because there was like this wall, and it wasn't like that any other time.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you sure you don't have a headache? And I was like, yeah, pretty sure I don't have a headache. And so anyways, I lay down, we do the cupping. That particular night, my body was so inflamed. I had like, you get red when you're cupping, but it was like purple. My body, it was like not normal. I took pictures of it. And I was like, what is going on with my body's response to this? Maybe some people get purple. I had never gotten purple before. And anyways, whatever, that night I wake up and I have the most insane migraine I've ever had. And it was like this ocular migraine. My blood pressure was dropping. Again, I'm vomiting. I must feel like a story of my life. I vomit a lot. And the Lord said, pray. Like, you have like a spirit over you, right? And you need to pray against it in the name of Jesus, like now. And so I called my mom and my dad, and I'll like never forget. It was like the first time I actually heard my dad like screaming, like crying out, like on behalf and in the authority in the name of Jesus. He took that authority. It was so powerful to me to hear my dad take that authority. And he prays all the time, but this particular time, because of I was screaming at them, like, pray. It's like, and then both my mom and dad, both of them, like just like crying out to the Father and covering me in the blood of Jesus. And then it ceased, but it was such an attack. And, you know, and it went away, and I started to feel a little better. We went to the hospital. I'll tell this part too. It's kind of funny. But I had prayed on the way to the hospital. It's like, Lord, would you just like, can I see you when I get there? Like, can I feel your love? And like, in my mind, he was going to give me like the sweetest little nurse, like this old lady who like loves Jesus, and she was going to like sit by my bedside and read Bible stories. I don't know what I thought was going to happen.
Like a movie. Yeah, it's just like Touched by an Angel. Guys, I used the old school. Yeah,
bring it back. But when I got there, this is super funny, and God is so funny.
Yeah,
he really does have a sense of humor.
Like me.
And you,
just like, no, you.
Oh, me. Yes, I'm funny.
Not me.
We laugh because I'm funny.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I get there, and there's 4 men, nurses. Like, when on earth is there ever? But they were young guys, and the one had a cross on his neck, and had mentioned, I don't remember exactly anything, but had talked about praying. And I was like, how funny is this? Like, I'm thinking a little old lady and there's like these 4, and I must have been like the only patient because there were all these guys in this room. And I was like, but I felt so seen, so protected, and so loved.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because they were guys. Like, I like, it was just the God showed me.
Almost like they were an angel. Like, that's what it was picturing. I was like,
it was not like anything I've ever experienced.
That's what, like, I have no idea. I was not there, but in my head, I was like, those weren't guys. They were angels. They were big.
Maybe there was just like one guy, and there were other ones. I don't really.
I am like, I see it, whether or not it was a representation of or real.
I have no idea. But I remember thinking like, it's not exactly how I thought you were going to, show up. Yeah, I did. And I felt it, and I felt his love. And so I guess, what I would want people to take away, like, in suffering is your mindset. God says in his word, we are to renew our mind.
Yeah.
And we are to meditate on things that are lovely and good and true and noble. And so many times when we're suffering, we don't do that, right? We focus on the problem, or I just want this to go away, but instead of like replacing those thoughts of like, I'm going to die, or this is what it's going to always be, or this, we don't replace it. And so I guess like what I would hope what I have learned, I would say, and what I'd want other people to learn from my story, is you can renew your mind with the word and to like speak hope and speak life over your body.
Yeah.
And it's God calls us to do that because he knows us, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes us sicker as we focus on our illness.
Right.
You know, but if we speak life, it actually makes us healthier.
Right.
I mean,
What you
physically.
magnify, you
Yeah,
see.
you see.
Yeah.
And so, and in that too, like, I guess like in suffering, like God can be glorified in so many ways, in every way, actually, if you allow him to, is what I would say. And I think that's what I would want anyone to learn from that is like I want people to see him when they see me.
Yeah.
I don't want people to see me or see the suffering or like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's like, no, but you don't understand, like God showed up. He was there. He's here. He's never left me. And so,
and I think I love that you're even talking about that. I want to come back real quick to that witch who cursed you. Like when I remember you telling the story, I'm like, oh my gosh, she cursed her.
She did.
Like that's what she did. And there is a righteous anger that like burns within me. And I'm like, you don't get to do that to my friends. Like you don't get to do that to people that know Jesus. And so, it is, I think that's a really good point that you made too about like, be careful who touches you. I am so careful now, even with everything, with someone.
Cake. Don't eat the cake. Remember the way?
Oh yeah. The cake. I am careful. That's an inside joke, but I am careful with anyone who does like a facial, like anyone touching me. I'm like, what spirit do you operate out of? Like, I am very careful of that. And I think a lot of times in illness, people can get desperate.
Yeah.
And like, I remember one time, like I was talking to a friend and she's like, oh yeah, I went to this Reiki thing. It was fine. I was like, no, that's not fine. Like, and if people that talk to me know that I am very into frequency and the way that God made things and what I know about frequency and vibration and our minds and all the things always point me back to God. They don't turn me away.
Totally.
And I have definitely spoken to people who are so desperate to feel good.
Anything.
That they'll do things that it's like, oh, that's like you were really messing with a different spirit. Yeah. And so I loved your point, and I would encourage anyone out there to just like, you have to do things prayerfully and considering like who's touching me, who's in your space, who you're sharing energy with, because that's what we do. And so yeah, but I have loved this so much. I loved our conversation and it's been good. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts. I appreciate you like asking me to tell my story, because that wouldn't be my natural tendency, is to want to get in front of people and say like, oh gosh, suffering is really hard. Here's my story.
Yeah.
But in doing it, it is, again, going back to healing, it is healing. And then you're reminded, you always have to remind yourself where God has taken you, where he's brought you, where you are now, and knowing and trusting that the next part of your life, whatever is tomorrow, he's going to be there too. Yeah. Because he's been there the entire way. Looking back and recalling your story, you see where he was like woven throughout the whole thing. Yeah. So to me, it's like everything is a pointer to him and what he's doing in my life. And yeah, so thank you. Yeah, actually.
I love that. And it's just like the Israelites used to build altars in remembrance because we're human, because we're fickle, because we forget. Yes. They had physical altars where they would always build altars where God was faithful. And it was like, oh yeah, remember when God did this? Remember when God did that? And
yeah. Oh, that's so good.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of Broken to Build, and we will see you next week.